Adventurers, it's Scouter Dawn, and we're back doing chainmail. This time we're working on this lovely star. There is another variation that we'll be doing later, and it is a 5-pointed star, but even though the two are almost identical, this one is actually much easier to do than that one. And we'll get into that once we start looking at our materials. So starting over here on the left hand side, I have got 4 very large spikes, 4 of the small spikes, 2 rather large jump rings, 8 medium-sized jump rings, 16 smaller jump rings, 8 teeny tiny jump rings, and then over here these are not jump rings, they're actually rubber O-rings, and that is what makes this a lot easier to make than this one. This one does not use the rubber O-rings, so it doesn't have quite so much give when it comes to maneuvering things into place. Alrighty, so we're going to get started. Now I've opened almost all of my jump rings in advance. It makes life so much easier. This is also why I have things laid out. But just a refresher, when we open up a jump ring, being that I'm right-handed, I am going to put my pliers at 3 o'clock, the opening of the jump ring at 12 o'clock, and I'm going to take my little tool, put it alongside, give it a twist, and the idea is that the twist occurs to the metal here at 6 o'clock. I'll do another one. I don't have to open it very far in this case. Now if I don't happen to have one of these handy dandy little tools in my kit, 2 pliers will also work. I'm going to have my pliers at 3 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, the opening at 12, and just a gentle little twist. Of course, closing is basically the same thing but in reverse. All right, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these itty bitty little ones, and I'm going to take a spike, and I'm going to put 2 O-rings on it and close it up. And that's it. And I am going to do that now to all my spikes. I'll just do that one more time for a demonstration. So there's my teeny tiny little jump ring, a spike, and 2 of my O-rings. And close it up. All right, so I'm going to continue on, and when I'm done that, we'll get back to the next step. All right, we're back, and now what we're going to do is very much like with our flower, we're going to start adding our spikes to this center jump ring, this large center jump ring. And again, when we're done, we're going to have them sandwiched between these 2 rings, and it'll lock it in place. So I'm going to start, and of course I will be alternating back and forth between my different colored spikes. Alrighty, so I'm going to start with this one. I'll move this out of the way, and I'm going to flip my 2 O-rings back so that my little tiny jump ring is sticking forward, because that's what we're going to trap. So this is a little bit different than our flower petal. And I'm just going to take and run it through those O-rings. So again, afterwards, what I'm going to do when I flip it is I'm going to do kind of the same thing. The second ring then is going to come this way as I wiggle it on temporarily, and it's going to trap that spike on there. Now, it's kind of awkward to do it that way right now, so I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to put them all on, and that will make life so much easier for me. So I started with the blue, move on to the white, flip my 2 white O-rings back, run it through the top, and I'm going to continue around. There we go. Get back there. There we go. I lost it. I'm going to have to take this one off and do it again. Okay. So any of you who did the Byzantine weave last year will recognize this flipping back of rings. It's actually quite a common maneuver when doing decorative weaves, and that's what they call it when we put chainmail together, is weaving chainmail. I know, not very thrilling to watch. Alrighty, phew, finally got them all on, and now I can close up this jump ring. Okay. Ugh. Because this is such a large jump ring, they do twist or tend to twist. Some people have another type of pliers that has a much broader head. They're not needle nose pliers. Excuse me, and they work very well for this task. Alrighty, so I'm going to flip this over now. Ooh, that was awkward. And now I'm going to start putting this jump ring through. So you can see how these little silver jump rings are popping to the top again. I want to catch them. So I'm going to push them down. And again, I'm going to take my jump ring and go now and grab the top. This is going to be finicky work, I'll tell you now. However, having these jump rings made out of, or they're not even jump rings, these rubber O-rings makes the maneuvering a little bit easier. And I will continue all the way around, and then I will close up that jump ring, and we will come back when I have that done. All right, and we're ready to move on to the next step now that I have got both of my large jump rings trapping my spikes. So the next step that I'm going to work on is I'm going to be taking these medium-size jump rings, and we're going to be attaching them at the base of the large silver spikes. These smaller ones are then going to be attached at the base of the blue spikes, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. So let's get started. So I'm going to take my large ring, my larger of the remaining, and I'm going to find a spike and attach the ring so that it highlights and emphasizes the silver spike. And if you'd like, you can give it a twist if you don't want it to be directly in line. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to go on to my next silver spike. So if you'll remember, when we were doing this with our petal, our flowers, we were actually going and grabbing adjacent. In this case, these are just from the same spike. We're not trying to connect the two. And they're still pretty floppy. Again, it's not until the end that they really get strength. this side. And then I will start the smaller one, the smaller jump rings. And then I'll do the back side. So we'll do a few of these and then I will let you catch up with me. I'm hoping you guys are working along with the video. Whoops, that wasn't very good. Let's try that again. I hope you're working along with the video and pausing it as you do each step. It works out quite well that way. All right, so there's my 2 for this blue one. Again, I'm using these smaller ones now. Okay, so I will continue around with the smaller ones for the blue spikes. And same thing, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to repeat the same process here on the back side. Okay, we'll see you back in a few minutes. Alrighty, it looks like we're getting a little closer to our final product. So our last step is now going to be taking these last 8 jump rings, and now we're going to start locking things in place, and this is what we're going to be adding. So it is a jump ring, and it is going to go through to 4 of the jump rings that are highlighting our spikes. And as you can see as I turn it, I don't know if you can see as I turn it, so this is the one we're going to be adding, and it's going to go through the front and back of this spike and this spike's jump ring, and that's what locks it in place. So let's give it a whirl. Have my jump ring, it's nice and open. Oops. And that's it. Now there is kind of a little shoulder on these spikes, and what you do is you press these jump rings down eventually so that it sits in these shoulders. All right, let's do the next one. And I apologize if my fat little fingers get in the way. As you can see, manicure, are not my thing. Try that again. I think it might be easier if I'm holding on with a set of pliers. There we go. I've gone through all 4 of them now. And close the jump ring. Through the 4. And now I can feel it start to tighten up. Much better. And the last one, so we're in the home stretch. Oh, it's not open far enough. And then just to finish this one off, I am going to move those jump rings down and just slide them down to the shoulder of the spike. And I end up with quite a nice piece of chainmail. Stay tuned, and in a few days we will post the instructions on this one, which will look surprisingly similar. Like I said, the difference is here, instead of having these nice O-rings, which are are flexible. We have jump rings, which are a little less flexible. So a little tougher, but it can be done. Happy chain mailing, gang!